And now the Purple Playbook, brought to you by M&T Bank.
And welcome into Purple Playbook. I'm Alex Glaze, joined as always by two-time Super Bowl champion Torrey Smith. Torrey, how are we feeling?
Doing great, man. The real thing is here. No more talking. No more what's going on with Lamar. We are here. I'm excited about it.
We're here. And actually, before we get to the game, we actually had some big news this week. Kyle Hamilton put pen to paper. If you remember back in April, Hamilton said he wanted a new deal before the start of the season. And I think Eric DeCosta heard his message loud and clear. Hamilton signed a 4-year, $100 million extension on Thursday, making him the highest paid safety in the NFL. But now that K-Ham has signed, he said he's focused on one thing.
Super Bowl. Really, I think, you check a lot of boxes off, hopefully, throughout your football career. And not to toot my own horn, I feel like I've checked a good bit ever since high school. And Super Bowl still has yet to be checked. So, that's the next one that I want to check off. All the personal accolades and stuff, that's cool. But I feel like as a team, as an organization, talk to Mr. Bisciotti, it's just like Super Bowl, and we're not trying to wait anymore. So want to get greedy with that, want to do that now as soon as possible and stack them.
All right, before we get to his comments, I do want to get your reaction to the signing. Kyle Hamilton going to be here for the long haul.
Well, first of all, it's a little bit of a changing of the times there with Eric DeCosta. Oftentimes, the Ravens stretch their young guys out until the off season to get their deals done. It's not often they'll sign an extension right before camp, right? Typically, it's when they have all of the leverage. But this goes to show the relationship between the player, coach, and agent. Guys just wanting to go out there and get it done. So shout out to Eric DeCosta for having a great course of action and locking down one of the best players and best people for this team. I shot him a text, extremely proud of him, what he's been able to accomplish. But what Kyle Hamilton means to his defense is truly special. A weapon. You can put him any and everywhere. He's a Swiss Army knife. But off the field, as a role model for the kids in Baltimore City and the surrounding areas, it's a beautiful thing. I'm excited about it for him. You can hear him talk. When you can honestly just say, hey, I'm focused on the Super Bowl and truly mean it, because newsflash, just because you say you're focused on the Super Bowl, you're worried about trying to secure your future, right? And for him to have that peace of mind going into this year, I'm expecting his best season yet.
Yeah, and 3 seasons in the league. He's been an All-Pro twice, been a Pro Bowler twice. This is also a guy that, we've heard called a unicorn, the ultimate chess piece. Safe to say now, face of this defense?
Well, Marlon's still there, so I'm not going to let Marlon go to the side. And you also have Roquan there as well as the Ray Lewis type leader. But as long as Marlon is there, as goofy as Marlon is, that's the personality, the guy that people kind of think of with this defense. And, again, listen to what we're talking about. We just labeled off 3 all-pro guys that are on the same defense. This defense has an opportunity to be truly special. I'm not going to allow you to say anything foolish and compare them to the 2000 Ravens.
We're going to do that later.
Or any Mount Rushmores we decide to talk about here. But, it's a beautiful thing for Kyle Hamilton to be locked up for the near future. And, again, it's going to be a great season for him.
When you hear, all the talk has just been about Super Bowl, right? At some point, now we're at the time where you got to do it, right? What do you think? Is that realistic for this team? How much? When you've been in the locker rooms, right? You've been talking about it as much as these guys have. It's probably 10 times that behind the scenes. Just how much are they singularly focused on that goal?
It is the goal, right? I say it all the time. There are no bowl games. There is no second place. I didn't even know they gave out second place rings until a few weeks ago when I was in Philadelphia. Yeah, the championship, the runner-up, gets a conference championship ring. Never knew that. Can't relate. That's not my life. You understand? We went on this side. But anyways, for those guys, to be able to see that, it's no, man, I want to make sure that we get it done. Every year, you talk about the pressure, the team hears it. Whether you want to hear it or not, everyone knows this is a good team. Everyone knows this is a well-coached team. So the timing is always now when you have that type of pedigree. But as fans, I think you always have to be honest. How many teams are winning back-to-back? It just doesn't happen. But this team has a chance at doing it. But with Lamar being in his prime, with all these guys locked in around it, it feels like this has to be the year because they have the guys to do it.
Yeah, well, we're talking about Kyle Hamilton. He's on the trajectory to be one of these all-time great Ravens, right? When we're talking about the Ed Reeds and we're talking about the Ray Lewises, the guys that have been here and done that, right? Chuck Pagano, secondary coach, coached those guys, right, back in the day. And, Kyle's not ready to put himself in that conversation, but Pagano sees something differently. And actually, he compared Kyle to Ed Reed earlier this week.
I think guys like Kyle, some guys that were here before Kyle, guys like Ed, per se, they pick up the defense so fast, and they're out there, and they're not thinking about our calls. They're not thinking about our scheme. What he's doing is diagnosing the situation. He knows the down and distance. He knows the personnel group that's in the huddle. He can see and recognize a formation, so he's one step ahead. And so, like Eddie, you just don't fall into 63 or 64 interceptions and get a gold jacket, right? Everybody was like, how does he do it? It's preparation.
Chuck Pagano's obviously seen a ton of football, so if he's kind of seeing similarities, that is obviously a great thing. But when we're talking about all-time great Ravens, they all have one thing in common. It's a Super Bowl, right?
They do, and that's what helps get you over the hump. I will say football is the ultimate team sport, so there are a lot of great players in history that will not have that under their belt. That's kind of why I hate the argument of people deciding this quarterback is the greatest because they won. Okay, if Pete Carroll ran the ball, Tom Brady wouldn't have had another one, right? Like, it's the ultimate team win, the Tuck rule, right? They call him there's a million different ways. There's no disrespect to the Patriots and Tom Brady and what he's been able to accomplish, but the reality of it is football is a team sport, and it takes everyone to get there. So when you think about this team and what they're capable of, it's there. Every single thing is there, and the opportunity to win is there. So that's just that extra notch. That you could talk about how great of a quarterback Dan Marino is, how much of a gunslinger he is. But Dan Marino never had the opportunity to hold that trophy up, so you'll always be able to say he wasn't a winner. And regardless of how many games Lamar Jackson has won so far, regardless of how many games Coach Harbaugh has won, if Coach Harbaugh doesn't win another one, then they'd be like, oh, you won one early, right? And that's it. And the reality of it is that's just how people are and critics are. But this team has the ability to get it done. We know how hard it is, but I think it can be done. And I think Lamar Jackson and Kyle Hamilton will for sure be a part of a Super Bowl before it's all said and done.
2012, on your defense, there were two quarterbacks basically in Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. Look at this defense. You got Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton. Just how much of an advantage is it to have those type of guys on that side of the ball?
It's huge, and to have those type of guys that are the leaders as well.
Yeah.
So the best thing about Ed Reed and Ray Lewis were that as great of players as they were great leaders. They were great communicators. They helped set the standard for what it meant to be a Raven and to be great. And so I remember one time catching a pass in practice. And the rule is you kind of always want to finish like 10 yards past the last defender so the defense can work on their pursuit angles and all of that. Even if you get tagged, you still got to go. Ray Lewis was chasing me, and I had to keep running because he kept chasing me. It's about 60, 70 yards down the field. And it's all because his mentality was, you're not going to score on our defense. And that's in practice. And he's working and training himself to gain speed. And this is year 15 or 16, right? So when you have guys like that were already great, setting the standard, you have to fall in line. And I think with Kyle and all those other leaders as well on the team, this Ravens team has everything: talent, leadership, and opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the Ravens roster is set. It's down to 53 players. Just how good is this Ravens team? It might be one of the best Ravens rosters ever. We're going to break it all down when Purple Playbook continues.
The Purple Playbook, brought to you by M&T Bank. And now the winning prognosis, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. Care bravely.
All right, this week, a big week in the NFL. Teams cut their rosters down to 53 players. On paper, this Ravens roster is pretty good. They returned the core of their playmakers on both sides of the ball, went out and added guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Jair Alexander. John Harbaugh knows just how good this team is.
What goes through my mind when I watch him practice is this is a really good football team, and every season is its own season. Every week, every game is its own game. I mean, you take them all one at a time, truly, and so your focus gets very narrow. But when I take a step back and I watch practice, I know that we're a very good football team. So it's our job to go out there and play very well, and coach very well, and that's what we plan to do.
All right, let's get to it. You kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I think this is the best Ravens roster ever, top to bottom, right? 2000, obviously, multiple Hall of Famers, right? I think it was 4 Hall of Famers. They got a couple gold jackets on this team as well. 11 All-Pros on both sides of the ball. What do you think?
I think it is the best. When you talk about the 2000 team, everyone only talked about the defense, right? Well, we won it. I think there was a mixture of both, but there was no one that was more disrespected than Joe Flacco in our passing game, right? Which, by the way, was a record-breaking streak during the playoffs for Joe Flacco. And then you go to this team here where you have the should be three-time MVP in Lamar Jackson, and you have the weapons that he has on offense. Derrick Henry, Hall of Famer. Lamar Jackson will be a Hall of Famer. And there's weapons on that side of the ball, right? With the receivers, Zay Flowers, Pro Bowler, a lot of talent there. And the defense matches, right? That's where the difference is. The Ravens, both Super Bowls, they never had an answer on both sides, even though their defense was the craziest thing ever in 2000. They've never had answers on both sides, which is why it's exciting to watch and see the possibilities of this. There's no secret about it. This team can win the Super Bowl. Will they be healthy enough, and will they be hot at the right time of the year is the question that I'll continue to ask each and every year, because that'll help you know what it takes. Do they have the ability to win a tough game? Absolutely. Do they have the ability to win on the road? Absolutely. Is Lamar Jackson a winner in the playoffs? Absolutely. Do not buy the narrative that things change in the playoffs and Lamar Jackson's suddenly not a good player. I don't care what happens. If you can win the regular season, you can win the playoffs. This narrative that it's completely different, as a guy that's been in multiple playoff games, it feels the exact same. Cold is cold, right? The stage is a little bit different in terms of the end result, but the game is still the game. There's nothing different in my opinion.
I'm looking at this right now. I really wish we could phone a friend, call in our guy, Kadri Ismail, because, I mean, we're talking about Jonathan Ogden, Ray Lewis, Shannon Sharp, Rod Woodson. That 2000s team's pretty stacked.
Loaded, but respect to Q, no one cared about that offense. I mean that in the most respectful way as possible. Like, there's not a single soul that I've never heard, even from a kid in Virginia. I picked Madden with the Ravens to play with the defense. I love throwing deep bombs to Q, but no one cared about that team. So on the offense side of the ball, that just wasn't a thing. So now you talk about here, they have the best of both worlds, and again, respect to all the old guys. But it's the truth. Like, not a single soul mentions the offense when they talk about that Super Bowl. However, when it comes to our Super Bowl run in 2012, you mentioned Joe Flacco and what he was able to do. You mentioned Jacoby Jones and a Mile High Miracle. You mentioned how dominant Anquan Bolden was, right? And so you talk about the defensive side of the ball. You mentioned that was Ray Lewis's last drive, right? It's a completely different ball game.
It's funny you say that because I told Q, actually this past weekend, that when I played on Madden, like, I played with him just to throw that deep ball.
Absolutely.
Love throwing the deep ball to him.
Throw the deep ball to Q, because that's all you can do. And you can run the ball very well. You could run the ball very well, but you get Ray Lewis at linebacker, and that was the cheat code.
Yeah. All right. As we look at this 53-man roster, though, another thing that stands out to me, a great sign for Isaiah Likely, right? Fourth-year tight end, being on the active roster initially. That tells me that he's going to be ready to go soon. Likely had surgery to fix a broken bone in his foot earlier this month, and I asked General Manager Eric DeCosta for an update on Likely's rehab and when the Ravens expect him to be ready to go.
I don't like to talk about injuries much, but, you know, the fact that we didn't put him on IR, I think, speaks to when we expect him back. We think he'll be back at some point in the early part of the season. I think his attitude's great. I see him, spend time with him. I think it's going to be a really, really big part of our team this year for sure.
Obviously a great sign, Likely starting on the active roster. Do you think we see Isaiah Likely week 1 in Buffalo?
I think it's possible, but what it does is it gives them leverage. When you see that a guy is not put on IR, that means they have a 4-game window to decide when they come back. Well, if I can have Isaiah Likely for 2 games, that's better than having him for skipping the first 4. Right. And I think that's what you have to understand. It just gives the team flexibility, but also it shows that he probably is a little further along in his rehab, and he's going to be able to play. And also you can ease him into it, right? Isaiah Likely playing a little bit in each game and building his strength and confidence is better than him not playing at all, because, again, we talked about being able to win it. You have to be at your best late. And for him, you don't want to throw a guy out there that's coming off an injury and having them forced to play hurt all year long. Allow him to build up and to be who he is when it matters the most.
And we're talking about the tight end room, right? All of them going into the final year of their deal. When I'm looking at Likely specifically, year over year, his productivity has increased. What are you expecting to see from him this year? I think everyone's kind of waiting for that breakout year from him.
I think it's hard to have the breakout year when you're constantly splitting, right? So if he gets more opportunities, it will be a breakout year because he has the ball thrown to him more. I think that's the part of stats that can be a little bit misleading. You showed me a guy that has 100 targets. I'll show you a guy that'll probably have over 700, 800 yards, right? That's just how it should be if you have around that many targets. So for Isaiah, he's probably dreaming if he thinks he's going to get that many targets. But if he can go and get 60, maybe 70 targets and play a strong part in his offense, and being a guy that has a little more speed at the tight end position that can make plays with the ball in his hand, that can help him. You can see what he can do with volume. He's growing as a blocker. Isaiah likely is a major piece for this team.
A great sign, though, that he's not starting on IR. Friend of the show. We hosted Playbook down at Jimmy's with him, so good to see him healthy and back out there. Hoping to see him back out there soon. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to talk more about this Ravens roster. We're talking about how talented this team is. 3 undrafted rookies made the final cut. You're going to hear from them when Purple Playbook continues.
The Purple Playbook, brought to you by M&T Bank. And now the bottom line, brought to you by M&T Bank.
We're talking about just how talented this Ravens roster is. 3 undrafted rookies made the final cut, all on the defensive side of the ball. Linebacker Jay Higgins, safety Ruben Lowry, and cornerback Keon Martin. I mean, just incredible for those guys to make the cut.
That's huge, man. And this team has
rare, too. 3 undrafted rookies.
Yeah, 3 undrafted rookies all on the same side.
And there weren't many spots on this roster.
There weren't. We went into talking about camp, even in the preseason, like, guys are getting drafted, and it doesn't really guarantee you anything with this team because it was so deep and so full, and guys are already under contract. So to be a young guy, to be a part of that tradition, the Ravens typically are going to sign a guy or two every year, and to be able to see the potential in them, that's huge. Because oftentimes these guys are turning to players, if not for the Ravens, somewhere else, because they do a great job of identifying players that can help in this league, whether it's special teams or a guy that grows into a defensive player or an offensive lineman or somebody that can go out there and shine. So congrats to those guys. Put the work in. They really beat the odds because the odds weren't in their favor, especially in the room that 2 of them had on the defensive side of the ball to go out there and make it. So congrats to the Young Bucks for making it and getting their first shot to live out their dream.
Yeah, you mentioned beating the odds, and it made for a cut day that none of these guys will ever forget.
I caught Rube when I was walking up the stairs. He was walking down, and I was like, oh. And I'm like, I just gave him a hug. I'm like, yeah, man, we did it.
When you're walking down the stairs, you see him with a big smile, and you know he knows and I know. We didn't have to say any words. It was just a big hug. It was like a movie moment, honestly.
Just to see the surprise in our face, and just how happy we were. And I think the coolest part was just like the family's response to what happened, and it's kind of community success. I felt like the whole family won that day.
Really cool stuff. And the Ravens put out a good video of those guys all on the phone calling their family after. I mean, that is just great stuff. Just what is it like the day? I mean, obviously cut day, it's a tough day for a lot of people, but the locker room the next day when you see those guys who made it, and you can just tell it means a lot to everybody, but it means so much to those guys who beat the odds.
Yeah, man, it's the craziest feeling in the world. First of all, to go and know that you're going to make it. Those guys beat the odds in a way that people outside don't really understand. You're at the bottom of the barrel when you're an undrafted free agent. Your reps are lower, right? There's a period of 15 plays. You're lucky if you get 1 or 2. You have to fight and claw and prove why you should be on that team when there's a guy that's drafted over you that's going to get more opportunities. Or there's the vet that's going to get more opportunities. And then people are going to kind of get hurt. So not only that, you can't get hurt. If you get hurt, they're getting somebody else, right? It's a fine line of everything that you just have to prove yourself. So for those guys to go through, be battle-tested, fight and claw, take full advantage, catch the attention of the coaches around them, man, it says a lot about them. And to be able to call their families and celebrating it, I mean, you're watching years and years of hard work. That nod from Eric DeCosta that let them know they made it is just as great as getting that phone call that your name is being called. Because, and I'll probably say even greater, because that's an accomplishment that it's done at that point. These guys went through the process hoping their phone rang and it didn't.
No guarantees.
And it didn't. Yeah. And now they go into this offseason and they're fighting and clawing and hoping their opportunity stays when people are going in and out every single week, and they're still there. And then they earn it and get the call. Man, it's a beautiful feeling. And those guys will remember that moment forever.
And really quick before we go to break, I do want to ask you, just because the Ravens just seem to be doing this so much better than everybody else, what do you see when you're out there having been at other places that allows the Ravens to find these hidden gems? Is it the way that they practice or go through camp, doubling up, having, guys constantly getting those, like, what is it?
It's the guys you don't see. It's the scouts. The scouts bring these guys in. They have regional scouts that scout these different colleges, and they all kind of like, hey, this is a guy I really think is underrated. And then they come in, and somehow the Ravens' evaluation of players tends to be a little bit better than most teams. There are very few people that can rival what the Baltimore Ravens do on the scouting side. So it's all in with everyone there.
Awesome. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to wrap up the show when we come back. Stay with us.
The Purple Playbook, brought to you by M&T Bank. Now back to the Purple Playbook.
And welcome back to Purple Playbook. As we wrap up the show, Torrey, want to talk to you about a big receiver signing this week. Terry McLaurin finally agreeing to terms with the Commanders. Get out there, getting $30 million a year.
Yeah, a whole lot of money being